I helped a fitness coach scale from 20K per month to 120,000 US dollars per month, all through LinkedIn without spending a single penny on ads. And in this video, I'm gonna break down exactly how we did it at each phase so that you can learn the exact steps too. And just for some context, here's some key metrics we achieved together. He had a 120,000 US dollar record month. He had a 53% close rate on average, and his fitness coaching packages range from 6K to 30K. Most of these get paid in full by his clients, okay? Now, just a heads up as to why my client is blurred out. He asked me to not put his name or anything out there because he works with quite high-end clients, so he doesn't want people knowing how much he's earned. So I've kept him anonymous throughout the video, just to respect his wishes, but obviously he's on LinkedIn, he is a real person. Just a quick heads up why his name and face is blurred out. So here's just some proof from the messages that he sent me. He had a $120,000 month. This was in April 2026, and then we're messaging back and forth. This was a sale through LinkedIn that got him there. As you can see, his close rate on average is 53%, and as you can also see, he's getting $26,000 sales, all paid in full since we started working together, okay? And in this video, I'm gonna show you exactly how we did it. I'm gonna show you all of the steps so that you can learn the exact steps as well. So for a little bit of context, a couple of months ago, or about a year ago, a fitness coach came to me doing $20,000 per month, okay? And his main problem was he was doing everything himself when he first came to me, okay? The outreach, the LinkedIn content, the sales calls, the delivery, etc., okay? Literally everything you can think of, he was doing it himself. And that meant that he was the bottleneck within his own business, okay? And so he was getting some clients from LinkedIn, but the leads were inconsistent, and then so was the revenue, mainly because he was relying on referrals to get more clients in, okay? 80% of the leads that he did get through LinkedIn were unqualified. They didn't have the money, or they didn't wanna, invest in a fitness coach right now. And he was charging $2,500 for his fitness coaching and still hearing, I need to think about it, even though the prices were quite low, okay? Now, he didn't know this, but he had 3 core issues that were holding him at 20K per month. Problem number 1 was a lead gen issue, right? This is pretty obvious, okay? The content just wasn't converting, right? His outreach wasn't getting anywhere. He didn't have enough sales calls, etc., etc. Problem number 2, he had a positioning issue. Even though the lead gen would sometimes work, he'd get the old lead that he did get wasn't qualified most of the time, okay? Again, they didn't want to pay the prices, they didn't want a fitness coach right now, they were too scared to invest. And problem 3, he had an offer issue. He was charging 2.5K US dollars and still hearing, I need to think about it, okay? Now, this meant that he was running in a hamster wheel. His business was basically a hamster wheel, right? And the faster he ran, the faster he had to keep running to keep it there. And if he ever stopped running, for example, he got sick or he went on holiday, that wheel would stop spinning, okay? And that's not a good place to be as a business owner, right? So before I show you how we fixed all 3 of those problems and how we hit 120,000 US dollars a month, there's one thing that most people get wrong at 20K per month, which keeps them stuck there for a long time. And that is, they think they have a sales problem, when in reality, they actually have a systems problem, okay? Now, they have no consistent way of booking consistent sales calls with the right people who are ready to pay. And that's their problem. They don't have a sales problem. They don't have a conversion issue. They have a systems issue, okay? So phase 1 with working with my client, we took him from 20 to 40K per month within 30 days, okay? Now, the goal of this was we wanted to book consistent sales calls with his ICP. Now, fix number 1 was the profile, okay? This was the first thing that we needed to fix. Now, his profile was trying to speak to too many people, so it resonated with nobody, okay? There's millions of fitness coaches, especially on LinkedIn, Instagram, etc., okay? We needed to find a way to make him different, and we needed to speak to a really specific pain problem for one ICP, okay? So his profile picture wasn't optimized, it was blurry. His banner didn't speak to his ICP, it wasn't authoritative enough, right? It didn't speak about an outcome. His headline didn't resonate with people, so he wasn't getting profile clicks, okay? We rebuilt it to speak directly to his ICP, which was corporate execs, lawyers, partners, etc., okay? We rebuilt it so that when they clicked on his profile, that they needed to feel like he could help them, right? And so we rebuilt it around that. We made sure that when they landed on his profile, they thought, right, this guy can definitely help me. That's exactly my pain points. He understands me, okay? And the reason that we did this is when you get a dialed in profile, it converts profile views to leads because they start clicking your CTA, they start reading your about section, they start reading your content, etc. But also it makes your outreach 10 times more effective, because when they read a message from you and then they can see your headline and they resonate with that headline, they're more likely to respond. Now, if you want help from me building this system for you too, before I get into the whole video, book a call. There's a link in the description. You can book a call with me and I'll walk you through what work with me one-to-one actually looks like, okay? Now, fix number 2 to get him from 20 to 40K a month was we started doing daily content for him, okay? Now, not just any random content and posting about free value stuff and, you know, himself. We wanted his ICP to stop scrolling when they saw one of his posts and think, yes, this guy gets me, he gets my problems, this is the fitness coach that I want to work with, okay? So I gave him access to my AI content writer, and my clients are getting a new version of this and they've already got an upgraded one. So if you want my old one, the one from ChatGPT, DM me writer on LinkedIn, you'll get access to my older one. And then you'll get access to my older one because my clients have got a new and upgraded one. Now, the reason that we gave him this is A, it writes content faster. B, it was already programmed to write with all of my content knowledge and my style of writing. And 3, we then tailored it to his ICP, okay? The reason we did this is because he was the bottleneck, right? We needed to take him out of writing content manually because it was taking up a ton of time. But also, it would have taken him way too long to learn how to write really good content from scratch. So by just programming an AI that can do it for him, it saved him a ton of time in terms of learning how to do content and actually writing it itself, okay? Now, the type of content we posted was personal content, free value posts, case studies. This is all basic stuff, okay? We just needed to get content out there to start getting attention from his ICP, right? And the reason that we did the content is because it achieved 2 things for us. Number 1, it got him in front of his ICP on their feed and got attention to his name and his business. But also, it warms them up before the outreach, okay? Because if they'd seen 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, however many posts, and then he messaged them, at least they would know who he is and what he does and know that he has a little bit of expertise, okay? Now, before I get into the rest of the video, I'm gonna show you exactly what content changes actually took him from 40K to 100K a month later on in this video, so stay tuned for that, right? Fix number 3 to get from 20 to 40K a month was outreach, okay? So copy pasting DMs is bullshit. This is what most people do. They'll cold pitch people, they'll send them generic messages, they don't know how to do outreach. And this is why a lot of people fail at outreach, right? So we didn't do that. We gave him a simple, repeatable system so that he could consistently book sales calls with his ICP, right? And it looks something like this. Step 1, you wanna go into Sales Navigator and you wanna build a list of your ICP. Obviously, these were not the filters he used. We added, we did a list that was more detailed than this, but we built a list of his ICP and set up an automation to consistently add his ICP to his network, okay? Step 2, we let the content do the warming, right? When people started seeing the content, they were liking it, they were commenting on it, they were viewing his profile, they were following him. Off the back of that, we then knew which people to message because if they'd engaged with a few posts, we knew that they were going to know who he was and what he did and therefore be more likely to respond to his messages. Step 3 was all about starting human conversations, right? So there's a couple examples from me or my appointment set sending messages here. We didn't just send them random messages, you know, about work. We put a little bit of humor in there. We talk about stuff that they've actually done. We look at specific posts that they've done. And using this method, I actually achieve a 73% response rate on my DMs. And then obviously here's some examples from his here. Just heads up, the reason he wants to stay anonymous is A, just because of some personal and religion things. He doesn't like to kind of share where he's at and what he's doing. So I've had to keep him anonymous. But as you can see, we send super tailored messages to the person. They look like they've been written by a human, not by AI, etc. Okay, and again, they achieved a good response rate. So then step 4 was we wanted to transition to a call. Now, throughout the conversation, the idea is we want to get them to reveal a pain, a goal, and a roadblock, i.e. something that's stopping them from achieving their goal. Once we have 3 of them things, we can then offer a call, which meant that we was booking sales calls through LinkedIn, okay? And we went from booking 0 to 2 sales calls per week to 2 to 4 sales calls per week on LinkedIn just by doing that outreach method, okay? Then he hit 40K a month within 30 days of doing this, right? From literally changing the profile, posting daily content and doing that good outreach system, he went from 20K a month to 40K a month within 30 days of working with me. But then he decided to go alone, okay? Phase 1 was complete. We got him from 20 to 40K a month. He was doing the basics on LinkedIn and he figured that he knew what to do in order to get to 100K a month. He thought, right, I've done 20 to 40K a month. I know what I need to do to get to 100K a month. And he thought it was gonna be more volume, right? Because that's what got him there already, right? He thought more volume would equal more growth. So off he went, he started doing more DMs, more content, taking more sales calls, taking on more clients. And to be fair, it worked at first. He'd hit 60K one month, but the problem was he'd always drop back to 20K or 30K or 40K the next month, right? It was a bit like a roller coaster. It'd go up and then back down, up, back down, up, back down, okay? Because he was the machine, right? He was this one cog in this big engine and he was the system. And systems break when one person gets busy, right? If he started focusing more on delivery, lead gen and sales would drop. If he started focusing on lead gen and sales, delivery would drop and then the clients would get angry, okay? he was the thing that was holding it all together. And that's why more volume didn't help him grow. Okay, because he wasn't short on effort, he was short on leverage. Now, this is one thing that I want you guys to understand when you're trying to grow a business, especially a coaching or a consulting business to over 100K a month, right? You need leverage within your business, okay? Because the coaches that are stuck between 20 and 40K a month, they are no less talented than the ones at 100K a month, right? The people at 100K a month probably don't actually know that much more than you, right? They're just working on the wrong things, okay? The reason that you're stuck where you are is probably because you're just not pulling the right levers within your business, right? And as a founder, the single most important thing that you can do as soon as possible is create leverage, right? Think about it like this, okay? Imagine there's 3 different people, right? There's a guy digging sand with his hands, there's a guy digging sand with a shovel, and there's a guy digging sand with a digger, right? The person who digs the biggest hole is the one who did the least work, right? The guy in the digger is literally sitting there, pulling a few levers, changing some buttons. He's gonna dig the biggest hole, okay? And that's purely because he has the most leverage, right? His tool is able to do the most amount of work with the least amount of effort, okay? That's what leverage is, okay? So after nearly a year of trying to work harder to grow, he came back to me, right? He'd done 60K months, but he'd always drop back down and he was fed up of it being inconsistent, right? He came back to me and the answer that I gave him to help him get to 100K a month was completely different to what he expected, okay? So phase 2. We needed to get him from 40K per month to 100K a month within 60 days, okay? That's exactly what we achieved, and I'm now gonna break down exactly how we did it. So the goal was to generate more ready-to-buy leads whilst removing him as the bottleneck, okay? I didn't just say, let's go and get more leads. I said, let's get more people who know who you are and are ready to buy from you whilst removing you as the bottleneck from your business, okay? So we needed to solve 3 new problems that he now had since, trying to go off on his own, okay? Number 1, he was the bottleneck. Obviously, this has always been the issue, but we really need to solve it now because it was a big problem, okay? He was literally doing everything himself. Number 2, he had unqualified leads. A lot of the people weren't ready to pay the prices. They didn't know who he was. They weren't ready to buy it, and you need to think about it for months. And number 3, his ICP was just skeptical around fitness coaches in general, okay? Now, this is the case with a lot of niches in coaching and consulting. People are just skeptical in general now because there's so many scammers. Trust is at an all-time low. Okay, so we need to solve these 3 new problems, okay? And in order to do that, we made 4 key fixes that rocketed him to over 100K a month within just 60 days of working with me again, okay? Now, fix number 1, we got crystal clear on his ICP, okay? We didn't just define who his ICP was, what their job title was. We got super fucking clear on who they was. We knew them inside out, okay? The problem was, when he went off, he tried to niche down too much, right? Everyone online says you need to niche down, and so he went away and he got too specific on who his ICP was, right? Now, just a heads up, when we fixed this, it enabled us to fix steps 2, 3, and 4, which I'll obviously go over in a minute. But his problem was he was targeting by gender, location, and job title. So he was basically targeting males within a certain area with a certain job title, okay? And that meant that he was limiting himself because other people outside of the location that he was targeting in other job titles also wanted his help. But when they read his profile and he was super niche, they were just turning away, okay? Now, this is a problem that I see a lot of people make. So we analyzed his sales call recordings, right? We went over the last 20, 30 sales calls that he's had, looked at the transcripts, and we were trying to find the language that they use to describe their pains, their fears, their desires, right? We wanted to look at the exact phrases and words that they were using, okay? And what we found had a huge impact on the amount of inbound leads he started generating, okay? Nobody said that they wanted to lose X amount of weight. Most fitness coaches online say, I'll help you gain this amount of muscle or lose this amount of weight or, get fit within X amount of days. No one was saying that on his sales calls, okay? They all said that they wanted to get in shape and feel like themselves again. They were the words and phrases they were using. So they're 2 completely different desires, right? Someone who wants to get in shape and feel like themselves is not the same as someone who wants to lose X amount of weight before a holiday. They're 2 completely different desires, okay? And it completely changed how we positioned him. So the worst coaches in this industry and obviously in the coaching and consulting space, they talk about what they do, but they don't deeply understand what their ICP wants. So they will say, I'll help you lose X amount of weight without realizing that their ICP don't even say that, okay? The best coaches in the industry, the ones who are the most successful and earn the most, they talk about the outcomes they achieve. They don't say, I'm gonna make you fit in 60 days. They really understand what their ICP wants and talk about that, okay? So we dialed in his LinkedIn profile. We improved his profile picture so it's a little bit clearer, a little bit more professional. In his banner, we made it more authoritative. So we spoke about the outcomes that he'd helped people achieve. And in the headline, we started talking about will help you make you feel like yourself again. Obviously, that wasn't exactly what we said, but it was something around that, right? Using the exact language and words that they said in the sales calls. Now, when his ICP landed on his profile, they now felt like they was looking in a mirror, because everything that they were thinking to themselves, saying to themselves daily in their head for months and years, he'd now put it in front of them, so they felt massively understood, okay? And as a result, he began getting more inbound leads, more DM responses, more connection request acceptances, etc. Because everyone resonated with what he was saying, or his ICP resonated, sorry, okay? Now, this moves me on to fix number 2. Now we understood what his ICP wanted, we built a type form funnel to start generating more inbound leads, okay? And I'll tell you exactly why we did that. The problem that he had was his ICP was seeing his content. Some of them were finding it valuable and useful and liking him, but they weren't always booking a call or messaging him. Why? They'd been here before, right? His ICP had tried other fitness coaches. They'd tried other fitness programs. They'd tried figuring it out themselves for years, but nothing had worked, okay? Now, when they saw my client, the fitness coach that I was working with, their gut reaction was, what makes him different? Why is this guy suddenly going to work after the hundreds of fitness coaches and programs that I've tried, right? The truth was, he was different, okay? He'd had years of experience helping his ICP. As you can see, he'd literally been running his business for over 19 years now, okay? So no generic fitness coach understood his ICP's world as well as he did. He had a very specific ICP, right? They were busy corporate execs, managing directors, partners, etc. These people were extremely busy. Now, their problem wasn't diet, it wasn't their training processes, it was time. And he understood how to fix that like no other generic fitness coach would, okay? So they didn't know that because they were too skeptical to even book a call with him. They didn't know how much he could help because they hadn't even spoke to him yet, okay? So we stopped asking them to book a call because that was a big commitment for his ICP. And instead, we helped them trust him before they even spoke to him, okay? And this is where the type form funnel comes in, okay? We put a type form on his profile in his featured section. It looked something like this. It said, get your free health and fitness assessment, and used it as a diagnostic tool, okay? So it asked them a few questions, and at the end, it told them what their number one issue was, right? And as you can see, one of the answers that they can get is metabolism stimulation and implementing simple habits that fit your routine. That's what their health focus is. Now, imagine for years you've been reading fitness programs and talking to fitness coaches, and they all told you that your problem was diet or workout training, etc. And then suddenly this fitness coach is telling you this, right? For the first time, a fitness coach wasn't actually telling them that their issue was diet or effort, which they knew. They knew they didn't have a diet or effort issue because they weren't lazy people. They were being told something that they already knew was true about themselves, which was the metabolism or the time, etc. And that's when the skepticism disappeared, which now meant we could ask for the call because they now knew why he was different. Okay, and also they felt understood. They felt like this guy finally got them. This was the first fitness coach that finally made them feel understood. Okay, right. And then at the end, once they got their answer, the type form said, if you want to book a call to speak about this, feel free to book in here. Some of them booked in. If they didn't, we'd go and message them or call them up with the phone number that they put in. Okay, and off the back of this, we started getting an extra 5 to 10 qualified sales calls every single month just by the type form. Okay, and as you can see, here's some of the answers, you know, people filling in on the 19th of April, the 23rd of April, the 24th to 25th, basically filling in to get their answers, okay? You need to make your ICP feel understood in order to book a call. You don't need to be the most valuable. You don't need to be the most knowledgeable. You need to show that you understand them. So find your own way of doing that. That's how you get people to book a call, okay? But he still had another problem, right? Which moved me on to fix number 3. We hired him an appointment setter, okay? His problem, again, was he was still the machine, right? Even though his profile was dialed in now, we started getting some more inbound leads. He was basically still the glue to everything. He was holding everything together. Everything ran through him, okay? When delivery got busy, outreach stopped. When outreach stopped, revenue dropped, okay? And outreach is the number one thing that coaching businesses cannot afford to stop, because when that stops, the backbone of your business basically stops, right? Your revenue drops down, it becomes inconsistent, okay? So we needed to fix this, right? Because like I've just said, outreach is the backbone of your business. But at the same time, outreach is a low leverage task, right? As a founder, you want to be working on high leverage tasks like we said earlier, but outreach is like digging sand with your hands, right? You can only speak to one person at a time. It takes hours to do. So as a founder, it's not the best task you can be working on, right? Because like I just said, you can only speak to one person at a time. Whereas as a founder, we want to be speaking to many people at a time, which is right now why I'm creating a YouTube video, right? If I was sitting in my LinkedIn DMs right now, I'd only be speaking to maybe 5 to 10 people at a time. Whereas if I create this one video, it takes me 1 hour, but it goes out to thousands of people at once, which means I can influence thousands of people at once, right? That's why I also have an appointment setter, okay? So we hired an appointment setter for him, okay? But here's where most people go wrong when they're hiring an appointment setter. This is where I see most people go wrong and where we made sure to not go wrong with my client, okay? We didn't hire one and then just hope for the best. We didn't onboard them and say, right, crack on with the DMs, go and, send some messages, send me the data at the end of the day. We created SOPs for every single scenario, right? We basically SOP'd, if this person responds this, here's how to respond to it. Here's how to start a conversation with his ICP, blah, blah, blah. We also created an ICP swipe file so that the setter knew exactly who to message and who not to message. And then we ran daily calls every single morning for the first couple of weeks to get the appointment setter hyped up, get them ready for the day. And then we also ran weekly training calls until she was fully up to speed, right? As you can see, here's some of the SOP examples, right? They get an appointment tracking SOP, a daily task SOP, so they know what they need to be doing day to day. They get an onboarding package with the ICP swipe file, a DM tone guide so they know how to message in the client's tone of voice, a setter end of day report so they can report to me and the client, and a warm outreach SOP, which gives a general overview. Obviously, there's more as well, okay? So here's the 5 sets of data that we tracked once we onboarded the setter as well, right? Number 1, new conversation started. Number 2, percentage of those that reply to you. Number 3, number of those that turn into sales calls. Number 4, percentage of those sales calls that are qualified. Number 5, the show rate to the sales calls, okay? So that we could always help her improve. When she sent us the data, we could then see which number needed to fix in and go through it with her on the weekly calls, show her how to improve it. And off the back of that, within weeks, she was booking 2 to 3 sales calls per week, every single week for my client. As you can see, he's messaging me on WhatsApp saying a call booked in from the chats. He's a perfect client, one of the best law firms in America. As you can see, he's also messaging me and my setter in Discord saying one of the chats from the DMs just signed up. And then again, another one just signed up. Okay, now look at what was happening, right? This is where we're at now. The profile is attracting the right people. He has Typeform converting the skeptical people into sales calls. And he has the setter booking sales calls on autopilot for him, right? You can see that things are starting to get better, okay? He was getting more sales calls than ever before without lifting a finger, okay? But we still had one last fix to make in order to get him to over 100K per month. And that was raising the prices, okay? His problem was his prices were way too low. And in order to earn more, you have to take on more clients and take more sales calls if you have low prices, right? Let's say that I'm earning or charging $2,500 for my service. In order to make 25K a month, I have to sign 10 clients, okay? Which is quite a lot. And that means you're adding more to an already full plate. If you're already doing a lot with a lot of clients and, the delivery, lead gen, etc., you're just gonna add more to your plate, right? We wanted to earn more whilst doing less work, okay? Again, it goes back to leverage. So most people, when they have this issue, they think, oh, you know what? If I wanna earn more, I need to improve my sales call skills. I need to close better and handle the objections better. But that just means that you're working harder on the calls, which again, is low leverage because you can only speak to one person at a time. Okay, you can only handle objections one person at a time. That's a low leverage task, okay? But we didn't do any of that. I didn't say go and improve your sales skills. I didn't say go and get better objection handling. Again, it's a low leverage task. His issue wasn't the sales call. He was a pretty good salesman. He was good at closing people, okay? It was what was happening before the call even happened, right? And as you can see, this is a little bit of an example of what a pre-call process looks like. I'm gonna be breaking it down in a minute. Prospects were showing up to his sales calls with limiting beliefs around losing weight, around fitness coaches, around how we could help, questions around what he did, who he was, etc., and his results, but also objections, right? They were still saying, I haven't seen enough results. I don't know if I can trust you, blah, 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 okay? Right? None of these objections, limited beliefs, or questions had been answered yet, and that was the issue. So we fixed that in 2 ways, okay? We fixed people coming to the sales calls with the same objections every single time in 2 ways. Number 1 was the content, okay? Most people get content wrong. They're just super unintentional with it, right? They'll just put a post out for the sake of it, not really knowing why they're putting that post out or what that post is trying to achieve. And this is why most people's content fails or it doesn't generate inbound leads. It's because they're unintentional with it. So this one change that we made to his content was huge in helping him hit 100K months, okay? It was probably one of the biggest changes, right? So what we did was we got every single piece of content to start pre-handling common objections, right? That was the new intention of his content. Rather than just putting content out for the sake of it, we wanted every single piece of content to pre-handle the common objections and questions that he was getting. Okay, so again, we went through all of his sales call recordings and pulled out every single question objection and limiting belief that was coming up on the sales calls, and basically looked at every single reason that people weren't buying, or things that stopped them from buying, or excuses they made, okay? And then we reverse engineered them, okay? So we gave him a prompt to reverse engineer all of the questions, objections, limiting beliefs that he was hearing in sales calls, put it into ChatGPT to reverse engineer them. By the way, if you want this prompt, DM me prompt on LinkedIn, and I'll send you over this whole GPT prompt so you can analyze your sales calls too. And now we knew every single thing that we needed to tackle in his content in order to get people to buy, right? Because now we knew all the objections that he was getting. We knew all of the questions that people were asking. If we tackled these in the content, people wouldn't ask them or object to them on the sales call anymore, okay? So every single post tackled at least one of these things, right? An example from me, okay? One of the objections that I kept getting on my sales calls was, I'm worried it's gonna take too long to see results. So I created a LinkedIn post showing how I get results for my clients fast, okay? I literally filmed a video talking about the cash sprint where Alex made 15K within his first 7 days, Ritvik made 10K in his first 7 days. That pre-handled that objection, okay? So by the time someone had seen 10 to 15 of my clients' posts, most of their objections, questions, and limiting beliefs were all gone now because it'd all been pre-handled and answered in the content, right? But we needed to be sure that they weren't going to show up to the sales call with the questions, limiting beliefs, and objections again, which moves us on to fix number 2, the pre-call process, okay? Most coaches book a call and then they go ghost until the call happens. They go, cool, looking forward to the call, see you in a week. And then they never speak to them between the last time messaging them and the actual call. And that's where they go wrong, right? The time between them booking the call and the actual sales call itself is the number one chance that you have to increase the chance of the prospect buying. If you can get the pre-call process dialed in, your close rate will jump through the roof without you even needing to get better at sales call skills or objection handling, okay? And this was the final step that we needed to make in order to help them to cross 100K a month, okay? The pre-call process, right? So as you can see, once a prospect books in, they're getting a confirmation page. They're getting a ton of emails with case studies, answering common questions. They get triaged within 10 minutes where the setter messages them, says, hey, by the way, are you ready to invest, blah, blah, blah. If they're qualified, they get sent a relevant resource or a video to prove that we know our stuff and to nurture them even more. We create a WhatsApp group with the closer. In this case, obviously, we didn't need to because my client was closing. The client then sends a voice note, right? There's so much steps that go between the prospect booking in and the actual sales call itself. That means by the time they get onto the sales call, the confirmation video has shown them the system. They've seen a load of frequently asked question videos, which answer the FAQs that we was getting. And they've seen a ton of client testimonials and case studies on the confirmation page, okay? Now think about what that prospect has been through before the call, right? They've seen 10 to 15 LinkedIn posts to answer their objections. They've filled out a type form that made them feel understood. They've watched videos explaining exactly how the process works. They've seen case studies and testimonials from people like them in the same position. By the time they get to the call, there's only one true objection left. They literally don't have any more objections or questions, right? And that last objection is price, okay? And that was a pretty easy one to fix, right? We just showed them the ROI on the call. We basically showed them, right, if you lose X amount of weight and start getting healthy and feeling like yourself again, how's that going to help you out in your work? Oh, you're going to get a promotion, blah, 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 right? We did some things like that, which meant we could confidently raise his prices. And as a result, he raised his prices to 26K to begin with. He was getting paid in full with that price. And since then, we've actually raised it to 30K as well. He had a 53% close rate on average on that price as well. His lowest package was 6K US dollars. His highest package was 26K. It's actually 30K now, like I just said. And before, in order to hit 25K a month, he'd have to have 10 clients saying yes. Whereas now, he only has to get one client to say yes and 25K a month, right? And it's actually much easier to get that person to say yes because of how dialed in our content and pre-call process is, right? So we're putting in the same amount of effort, we're taking the same amount of sales calls, but we're earning 10 times the amount of revenue from raising his prices, okay? So the kind of takeaway from this is you don't raise your prices and hope that people are gonna pay them. You remove every single reason that someone wouldn't pay, and then you can raise your prices confidently, right? Because there's nothing else that they can object to, okay? Within 4 months of coming back to me, he went from 40K to 113K per month. And then since hitting that 113K per month within 4 months, he's obviously hit 120K as a record month, but that was about 6 months after coming back to me, okay? So just to give you a quick context or a quick bit of recap of the full picture. He had a 120,000 US dollar record month. On average, he has a 50% close rate. His prices range from 6K to 30K. A lot of the time they all get paid in full, and he's barely working on lead gen or sales anymore, right? Sometimes he'll have a little bit of an input into content, or he'll post the odd post here and there, but for the most part, it's all handled by AI and an appointment setter, okay? And the reason that we got him to that point was because we created leverage within his business, right? We basically built him a digger for his business, okay? But this process won't work for everyone. If you're a fitness coach and you're thinking, oh, I need to go build a type form, or I need to go hire an appointment setter, I need to go change the content, right? The content and the appointment setter will work, but that type form may not work for you, okay? Because you need to find the right levers to pull within your business. You might have a different issue to what my client had, okay? So you need to find what are the right levers that I need to pull within my business? How can I do that in the best way possible, right? And that's exactly what I help my clients do. I help them pinpoint what levers to pull, and then I help them execute on it, okay? So if you want help scaling your business, if you want to work with me one-to-one so that I can help you pinpoint your A-star problem, pull the right level within your business, and actually scale up to consistent 50 to 100K per month on LinkedIn with no ads, book a call with me through the link in the description. I'll chat with you, I'll run you through the system, I'll see if you're a good fit. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, put them in the comments or DM me on LinkedIn, and look forward to hopefully speaking with you soon.